What's up, New Hope family? Welcome to the Grow Podcast. My name is David. With me, as always, is Pastor Leo. We are here to help you take a next step in your relationship with Jesus. We're so glad you're here. Hello and welcome to episode 108 of the Grow Podcast. I'm very excited that you are all with us today. Leo, I'm excited that you're here too. And again,
¿Cómo está everyone?
Not just because you appear to once again have brought food.
Michael,
I think, off camera is only excited because you brought food. But I don't want to jump ahead, but is this just ketchup or is this different than ketchup?
That's different. That's why it's face down.
Oh, no. All right, now I'm scared. Now I'm officially scared, but we'll get to that in a bit. How have you been?
I have been great.
Yeah.
You're sounding a lot better.
Yeah, it's not like completely back to normal, but it's much better than the last couple episodes that we did.
I need to get you screaming at basketball players.
Just
again.
in general, just scream. I'll just start screaming at people around the office.
There we go.
Yeah. I haven't looked yet to see what kind of response we got on if they prefer my voice this way or the regular way yet. But I'll have to check into that here soon to see if I need to make it always bad. But yeah, I'm excited to be able to talk a little bit clearer this week. It doesn't mean what I'm saying will be any better. I don't think the content will have improved, but the audio quality.
We can ask them, like, comment below if you like Scratchy David or Normal David.
I think didn't we ask him last week? I thought we asked him last week. So I just need to go look at some point. But we had a lot of people weigh in on the pancakes, waffles, and French toast debate.
Ooh.
We got quite a few comments on YouTube.
French toast for the win?
So I did not get a winner. I definitely should have. Michael, maybe real quick, you can go to that. I think it's from 2 weeks ago from us. So when we're recording this, I think it would be. It's either the most recent or second most recent. I don't know what's happening anymore. I think it was episode 106.
No, the most recent was the one with the food.
Yeah, I think it was episode 106.
Right.
I distinctly remember one comment like completely left French toast out, which I was very upset.
Right.
I was very upset about.
I saw that.
Yeah, they were like, I don't remember what was first, like maybe pancakes, then waffles, and they were like, and that's it. I'm like, what? You left out the best one. But they commented, so I still appreciate their involvement. But as we all discussed, French toast that's the correct answer.
That is the correct answer.
Mike, our producer, is working on maybe it was 105. What? Was it 105?
It could be 105.
Was it 104? How long ago was this? I don't remember anymore.
It's been ages.
Yeah, it's been a very long time. But I do appreciate everyone's participation. Even just go down. Yeah.
And thank you, everyone, for
our producer's struggling. It was 105.
For giving our producer a hard time.
Yes. Yeah. We'll be getting into Romans here in a little bit, but first we need to know who won the pancake French toast waffle debate. I really hope it wasn't pancakes.
And while we're doing that, let's talk about what I brought.
French toast is the winner?
French toast!
Yeah. Good job, everybody.
You guys are awesome.
We're very proud of you. French toast is the winner. And we didn't even need to add our 3 votes to tip it over. So that's good. All right. So, yeah, what did you bring today? Did Andy make this?
This is...
or did you make this?
No, Andy made this.
Okay. Well, now I'm excited. Yesterday. I'm scared at what that is.
It goes really well with that. But
it looks like ketchup.
It looks like ketchup.
And when I'm reading what it is on the front... Oh, see, that looks tasty. I'm on board with that. Michael.
That's made of vegetables. So there's no meat in that.
Oh, it smells really good.
That's, we call it okoi. Okoi.
Okoi?
O-K-O-Y.
Okoi.
Okoi.
Nailed that. Fluent once again.
There we go.
Okay.
Now, you can try it with that. I brought spoons and forks. It goes really well with rice.
Okay.
But... For those of you who know, I got this. It looks like ketchup. It looks like a bottle of ketchup. It is red like ketchup, but...
That's the confusing part. Michael,
ketchup is made of tomatoes. This one...
Banana sauce.
Is made of bananas.
Why is it red?
Like, look. Ingredients: water, sugar, banana. No tomatoes in it.
What makes it red? Just food coloring or
Food coloring, I guess. Yeah. Food coloring.
So I don't like bananas. Does it smell and taste like bananas?
No, it does not. Right?
Michael, come try a bite.
I mean, smell it. It doesn't smell at all like bananas. No, I'm serious.
Whoa. It doesn't. But what does it smell like? Leo, it smells a little fermented.
It is sweet.
Is there chili in it?
No, it's not.
No, I don't think it's spicy, but I feel like I smell
right.
onion. Chili, yeah.
A little bit.
There's some garlic in there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm scared of that. I'm not gonna lie, but I will try a bite of it.
Okay, here. I'm gonna put a little bit of that.
I prefer. Oh,
it's like
goopy
because
gelatinous.
It doesn't like the weather up here.
Well, most of us don't. But Leo, I am scared. I'm worried this is gonna upset my tum tum. All right. Oh boy. You can't even you gotta stab it. Oh, Leo. You haven't led me astray yet, so we're gonna go for it.
Mm-hmm. See, it's the face change that I'm here for.
It's pretty nice. It goes together pretty nice.
See, I told you.
All right, Michael, come grab it. Those are great. Okoi.
Mm-hmm. Okoi.
Really? Okoi?
Okoi, yeah.
Really good.
It's Andy. Thank you.
Wait. This is mine now.
They're fighting.
Everyone say hi to Michael.
They're fighting over it.
These are great.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Thank you, Andy.
Okay, so now I gotta ask you guys, between that and the lumpia.
That's a tough call.
Yeah.
What do you think, Michael? Yeah. Did you try? Michael says they're great. Did you try the goop, the banana goop? And?
It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Michael approves of the banana goop.
Yep.
Well, you're 3 for 3 so far. Really, Andy's 3 for 3, but
right.
We're giving you credit because you're here and she's not. So, thank you once again, Leo, for bringing us delicious food. These are awesome. I might pick these. This might be my favorite one so far.
And plus, that does not have any meat in it.
Yeah.
So
healthy.
It's a healthier option.
Still,
sort of, because it's deep fried.
It's definitely fried. The innards are healthy.
Right.
The innards are healthy.
It's made of healthier stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of healthier stuff, let's dive into some scripture.
There we go. Food for the stomach, and then now it's
food for the soul.
Food for the soul.
Do you remember? Did you ever read Chicken Soup for the Soul? Do you remember that book?
To.
Yes, my mom always had those. It was always in the guest bathroom. A copy of Chicken Soup for the Soul. Well, that's what we are here on the Grow Podcast. Hope we don't get sued for that.
Right.
But so this week, again, if you haven't been with us, we've been doing a study on the book of Romans, and really encourage you to check out the previous episodes if you missed any, because they're kind of all building on each other. Michael's going to town on the banana sauce back there.
Oh, there we go.
I'll be honest. There's a 0% chance I ever would have tried banana sauce without you. So congratulations. But so today we're finishing up Romans chapter 3. It was pretty good. We're 3 chapters in now.
We are.
It feels like we just started, but we're getting our way through. So why don't you start us off and just kind of give us any main, like we always have been, main ideas, main things we should have taken away from these. What do we have? 11 verses.
Okay, so a couple of things. Number one, we have to remember again, Paul did not write his letter down to the Romans or to any other church with chapters and verses in them.
We've added those later.
Right. He did not say, remember when I said in chapter 1, verse 5.
That'd be the weirdest letter of all time.
Right. And who writes letters? I mean, I need to remind my younger self when I write letters to Andy before we got married.
Just writing love letters.
Write your love letters with chapters and verses in it.
And then next time she gets mad at you, be like, if you recall from chapter 3, verse 9, I told you that this was going to happen.
So there. Those were added later. But nevertheless, if you think about it, we have just been going through this It's a deep dive into the book of Romans, and if you're not aware of it, or if you haven't thought of it, Paul spent 2.5 chapters just to make one point, or I guess it's 2 points very clear to the people, to the church in Rome, which is number one, we are all sinners. We're all sinners, and none of us are exempted from that. We are all sinners. And number two, none of us have a way to save ourselves. So 2.5 chapters of just Paul explaining to the Romans those 2 points.
Why did we take so? Again, obviously, like we said, the chapters were added later, but you just said it in much less than 2.5 chapters worth.
Right.
Why did Paul spend so much time on that at the opening of the letter?
Well, it's
Also, I realized real quick, my last bite of, I already forgot the name of it. Give it to me again. Okoi. I'm pretty sure I was just chewing it straight into the
just
microphone.
remember, OKOY.
I'm done eating. For those of you listening at home, I will not be chewing into the microphone anymore. Although I hope Michael saved me one of them. Michael did not save me one. Oh, he did. Okay, they're so good.
Yeah,
delicious. But anyway, so back to Paul. Why did he take so much time at the beginning of this letter to touch on just those 2 points?
Well, there are a couple of things that Paul wanted to emphasize. The first one is the importance of sin. Why is sin that big of a deal? I mean,
Sure.
People, especially like even today, people tend to downplay sin.
Yep.
Especially sin like lying. They'll come up with something like, it's just a white lie. They'll come up with something like, a lot of us, including myself, admittedly, tend to break the rules when it comes to speed limits.
Pastor Leo. if you're less than 5 over, it's not breaking the rules, right?
I know, right? See, and that's the thing. So we tend to downplay sin, and Paul here he took 2.5 chapters to stress the importance of sin. So saying, "Oh, sorry," or "Whoops," or
I'm not as bad as that guy over there or that girl over there.
Right. I'm not as bad as those in prison, or that kind of thing is not nearly enough to get rid of our sin in God's eyes. We can't go to God and tell him, why are you making such a big deal out of it? Go to that person over there.
Start at the worst,
right.
And like once you deal with them, then you come over to me. I'm
right.
not, I didn't kill anybody.
That's so true. So we tend to take sin lightly, or we tend to make excuses and why we did it. Like I said, white lie, or I lied to save somebody, or whatever it is. We tend to make excuses, or and we just did it right now. We tend to compare ourselves with the worst people, and then like come up slowly up that list until we get to where we think we are. Or we go the opposite direction. What we do is we try to discredit God. We try to discredit Jesus. God is not real. Jesus is just a good person. He's just a good example, but he's not really God.
Yeah.
His claims of him being God is just a lie, or something that the church came up with.
Right. Can you even trust? It was just written in this book.
Right. It was
like,
just
who
written
can you
in
trust?
that book.
Yep.
I
Minimize
mean,
the Bible.
even the Bible itself, it's just a book written by people so many thousands of years ago.
I like the sass in your voice as you give these excuses you don't believe in.
I have heard a lot. Or they try to discredit Paul because Paul was just being bitter, or something like that, just so they could come up with something that they will feel better about, because they don't want to submit to the authority. To the authority of God, to the authority of Jesus, to the authority of the Bible, to the authority of Paul and the apostles. So it's we tend to do all of these things just so the importance and the gravity of sin itself, not just some kinds of sin, but sin in and of itself, is lighter. We're not feeling the weight of it anymore. Second point that Paul was trying to do was he's trying to explain why we need Jesus and why religion is not enough, which is something that we talked about in the previous episode.
Yep.
So this is not, Paul's letter is not just for the non-Christians or the non-Jews or for those who don't or who are not baptized or involved or a part of some religious organization. This is, and this truth is for all of us. We cannot by our own means get the right standing with God that Jesus offers. There is no substitute. There is no vegan substitute to Jesus. Talking about Okoy again. There is no vegetable only substitute to Jesus. Jesus is the way. Jesus is the truth. Jesus is the light. We can only get it. We can only get the right standing that we need through Jesus himself. So it's just a very lengthy discussion of all of those points.
And no matter how many different ways we try, right? Like he's the only way. There are no other paths there. And that's why it's so important that Jesus didn't just that's why the new covenant had to exist, and why it's so important that Jesus came here and lived as a man, because he experienced what we experience and then gave us like a practical example of what it looks like to live this way, not just do this, but we've never seen anyone do that. Clearly it's not possible. I'm not clearly we're not saying it's possible for any of us to live a sinless life all on our own. It's not. But he showed us, because he is God, he showed us what living righteously with God looks like when he lived here as a man.
Right.
And that's so important.
And I have heard some people say that Jesus was just an example, or Jesus was just, and this is another way to discredit what Jesus did and how Jesus offered a path for us. But some people say that Jesus is just an example, or Jesus is just a proof that we can also do what he did, or Jesus is just, in other words, Jesus is just a better path. But the reality is, and this is what Paul has been trying to tell the Romans and us through his letter, is that there is no other path.
Yeah,
Jesus is just the path.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So, question for you, Pastor Leo. When we, use whatever Christian-y phrase, when we say yes to Jesus, when we ask Jesus into our heart, whatever whatever terminology you want to use, when we start following him and accept him as our Savior, we're no longer seen by God the way that we really are, right? Our sinful mess is kind of wiped away by the blood of Jesus. Pick your old hymn that you want about the blood of Jesus and whatever terminology from that. We are made holy. We are made righteous by him. And I don't want to speak for everybody listening, but I'm guessing most people, including the two of us, will be on the same page. Why don't, even after that, maybe in that moment we feel that way, but certainly just as we live our lives, that's not just a consistent feeling that I have of just I'm holy now. God's made me, it's like God sees me as holy because of the power of Jesus.
Right.
I still feel, ashamed of my sin and dirty because of my sin. And I think there are so many times where I'm like, that's how God sees me. He sees me as this sin that I have, or this mistake that I made, or whatever. How come we aren't able to feel that righteousness all the time that we get from him?
It's a good question. Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Leo. If you could compliment my questions more often, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, there we go.
It's good for my ego.
Good questions. Okay, so to answer that, I'm going to ask you a different question. I'm going to answer your question.
We talked about we're not doing this anymore. Pastor Mike left. Only I get to ask the questions now.
No, but
please continue.
Okay, so let's say that one day someone comes here to the office or goes here to the office, and then they're asking for David.
That's me. That's my name.
Yep. and then it is you. So they take you away.
Oh, geez. Oh, no.
and then, well, it's a good thing because
Oh, okay.
your athletic clothes that you're wearing right now,
you.
they replace it with royal garments.
Ooh, that sounds warm. Are they cooling royal garments?
Cooling
okay.
royal
All right,
garments.
I like that. I'm on board.
It's got a fan under
I
it.
like this. All right, I'm on board with this scenario so
All right.
far.
And then everybody starts calling you Prince David.
I don't think. See, now you lost me a little bit. Although, as a Minnesotan, Prince is a big deal for us, so I guess we can roll with it.
Yeah, so there we go. So everybody calls you Prince David. Why they're doing that is because it turns out you are the king's long lost son.
I always suspected.
There we go. See, it's in the.
Can I
in
ask
the face.
which king? I need to dive deeper into this
It's
scenario.
the one that climbed up the tower
Oh,
and
okay.
swatted at the airplane.
Sure. Kong, he goes by.
Kong.
He goes by Kong.
So
Thank you.
So someone from the royal family
'Kay.
watched the Grow podcast.
Oh, I like. Hey,
if someone
thanks
from the
for
royal
joining
family-
us.
Hello.
Ooh, it's an Australian royal
Yeah.
family. That's good.
So the Grow podcast, they watched the Grow podcast. They saw you. The question it's
They
it's
saw me and they were like, clearly royalty, obviously.
royalty, and he's the long lost son. So now that you are wearing your royal garments, your seated beside or at the royal palace, you're there. But do you automatically start walking like a prince, talking like a prince, thinking like a prince?
Are we talking like a royalty prince or like Prince the musician that I referenced earlier? Because either way,
Purple Rain.
I wish I could sing like Prince or play guitar like Prince, but no, I certainly would not. I feel like I would feel very out of place.
That is true.
I would probably ask for my curry jacket that I'm wearing back because I'm more comfortable. Although if they could keep the fan in it, that part of the robe sounds great. But no, I would feel like a fish out of water, as they say.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. And
That's a good analogy, Leo.
yeah, and
You're
because
good at analogies.
I'm the analogy king. I'm king analogy.
Is that what I'm Prince of?
That's so true. Okay, so the same is true when it comes to our right standing with God. Also, no, we Bible talk, church talk for this is our righteousness, our right standing with God. We're used to living the way everybody does.
Sure.
We grew up the way we grew up. We're used to the way we live. But in the eyes of God, our normal clothes have already been replaced with royal heavenly garments. But our position and our position now have been changed from someone who is against God and deserving his wrath and punishment to a child of God. But the fact of the matter is we are still not used to being a child of God. That takes some getting used to. Things need to change. I need to give up my old ways. The way I think needs to change. And so there is that gap. And that gap is where we're at. When you say that, I don't feel like it. When I mess up, I don't feel like I am a child of God. But we have to realize that we need to give up our old ways in order for us to start bridging that gap. So it takes some getting used to, and the more we resist, the longer it takes to bridge that gap, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
Going back to, continuing on where we are, but kind of touching on some of the things we've talked about in the past weeks too, where, we can't earn our way into righteousness.
Right.
But, similarly, the phrase you hear a lot, both from Christians and non-Christians, or at least non-practicing, just the like, only God can judge me. Like, you can't judge me, only God can judge me. But in the same way, as that statement, whether, we'll debate that statement a different time.
Right.
Or at least the heart behind that statement. But only God is the one who can declare us righteous, right?
Right.
Because, again, we can't earn our way there. Jesus, Jesus is the only way to that righteousness. So we also can't be like, like you can't make yourself righteous. You can't decide like, no, I'm good now. Like,
Right.
I can't go back to your analogy. I can't just walk up to the palace and be like, hey, I'm the prince now. Like, I don't have that power. Only the king has that power to say, yeah, this guy is, is cool now. Right?
You are cool.
Well, thank you. Yeah, as the king of analogies,
Right.
I needed you to declare that. But I think it's important
I
for us.
hereby declare you are
Thank
cool.
you. It's important for us to understand that God is the only one who can make us righteous.
That is true. The judge, God, is the only one who has the power to declare our right standing with him. He does, and that's the thing. What we need to realize, especially like what we talked about people who are religious. What was that? Episode 106. Recently just came out.
Probably.
So, yeah. So I just listened to it this morning. But in episode 106, we talked about people who are very religious.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing we need to realize. God does not need a substitute. God does not need a proxy. God does not need a stand-in. God does not need an envoy. God does not need a delegate to do that. He does not need someone to speak for him to say that David is hereby declared righteous or hereby declared to be in a right standing with him. And that is where grace and mercy comes in. And interestingly, we have people in PH. Two ladies. Their names are Grace and Mercy. So,
And they're here today. Let's bring them out. No, maybe they're listening.
So,
Shout out to Grace and Mercy.
if you need grace and mercy, the
you
people
can find them at PH Church on Sundays in the hub. Oh,
So,
boy.
if you need grace and mercy, they're at PH.
Yeah, good to know.
They can help you. But that's where grace and mercy comes in, because our default position, and this is where many people tend to resist this truth, but our default position, that of a sinner, not a good person. Again, we talked about that before. It's not like this is the way and we're right in the middle of it and sometimes we mess up. This is the road, like here, this place between David and me. That's the road, and then we're like right out there in the parking lot doing donuts.
Wait,
So-
the food or spinning in our cars?
Both.
Oh, at the same time.
Right, at the same time. So our default position demands justice. The Bible says that the wages of sin is death. The wages of sin is death. So we deserve death. Death is our wages. We deserve it. Separated from God. Death separated from God. And that's where mercy comes in. God gives us mercy in that because of Jesus' sacrifice on the cross, we don't have to earn our wages. We don't get to earn our wages. The wages of sin is death, but we don't get to earn our wages because of Jesus' sacrifice on the cross. We don't deserve it because we can't do anything to earn it, but God doesn't give us what we deserve. And
we talk like when something bad happens, we often say like that's not fair, especially if it happens to someone that we consider good, right? Like,
That
well,
is true.
this isn't fair. This shouldn't happen to this person. It's not
Right.
fair. But the reality for us is the best news ever is that it's not fair. Because if it was fair, we all end up separated from God.
Right.
Because that's what's fair. There was an agreement and we broke it. So what's fair is we get punished forever. So God not being fair in this scenario is the best possible thing for us because, like you said, what we deserve is not what we get.
Right.
And that's fantastic
if
news.
we're going to say that, God, I want you to be fair, God's going to ask, do you want me to start with you?
No, start with Leo. Start with
so-
Leo.
So that's where mercy comes in. We don't deserve it, but God doesn't give us our wages. And more than that, God gives us a replacement. It's not just that he does not give us our wages, he gives us a replacement. He gives us something that we don't deserve. We don't deserve the right to be called sons and daughters of the living God. We can't earn it. We talked about it so many times already. We can't earn it, but God gives us to us anyway. That's where grace comes in. Mercy is us not getting what we deserve, and then grace means that we get something that we don't deserve, which is right standing with God.
And that's why when we read, like I won't boast in myself, I will boast in Jesus, because we did nothing to earn what we got.
That's right.
So that's why, this whole process, you even talked about, I think our first episode, you kind of talked about how, as you're sharing your faith with somebody, when we were talking about kind of being unashamed, and as you're sharing with people, like, you shouldn't be like, well, look how good I am because I'm following Jesus now and I'm going to heaven. On the contrary, it's, I can't say one good thing about myself in this scenario because I did nothing to earn this. I earned the opposite of this. That's how great God is, that he, despite all of that, he still allowed me to have this way out of what I deserve. And that's why we boast in him. We don't boast in ourselves.
That's true. That's right. Which is why we need to learn. And
I don't like learning. My brain is too full. There's no room.
Hey, that's
new
why
stuff.
we have the Grow podcast.
That's
right?
true. That's a good point.
We can learn. So
growth always starts with the next step, everybody.
Growth always starts with the next step, and we need to learn to be dependent on God. That's why we need to learn, because it's not natural. It's not normal for us. We don't wake up one morning and then just think, how can I learn to be dependent on God today? No, we have to teach ourselves.
Be intentional.
And be intentional in what we're doing. Again, we're talking about the heart. We talked about it too here in the Grow podcast recently. It's all about the heart. It's all about your motives. You have to be very intentional in why you're doing what you're doing. So we need to examine ourselves. Remember about our analogy about David, the Grow podcaster.
That's Prince David to you. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Prince David, His Highness.
I'm really glad this is a podcast, not like a radio show where like people could have just tuned in right there, where I just demand that you call me Prince David and they have no context as to what it is. Usually no one skips ahead in a podcast, so I think we should be good.
So, Prince David, His Highness. So if we claim to be children of God and there has been no growth, if we claim to be children of God and there's no growth, no giving up of our old ways, no I have been made new in the way we think, there's no turning away from our wicked ways. The way I am 10 years ago is still me, the same old me. If it's still the same old me and there's no growth, no change, then we might need to re-examine our heart. So, because again, if it's not natural, it's not normal. We have to get used to living as children of God, because the default position is we are sinners. But if we are sinners and we have been made righteous in the eyes of God, we need to start giving up our old ways. So here's the bottom line. Hebrews 10 verse 31
I thought
says,
this was a study on Romans.
Oh, is it?
We're allowed to look at other parts of the Bible while we study Romans? That's great.
That's
good
true.
news.
That is true, because it helps. Like
it does.
Like if you read James and if you tie that up with Romans, with what Paul said about being religious and all that.
Yeah. Well, what wasn't it? Was it last episode or the episode before where Paul is quoting Old Testament scripture? Like it's almost like it all works together as one.
It's almost like that's a good thing to do.
Yeah. So bring us back to Hebrews.
So
Sorry.
Hebrews 10 verse 31 says, "It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God." And think about it. That's something that we need to always remind ourselves. If you need to write it down on your forehead, or don't go walking
maybe not on your
with
forehead.
like in a mirror somewhere, but somewhere where you can remind yourself of that. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God.
But doesn't stop there, thankfully.
That is true. And thankfully, only those who place their faith in Jesus and his good news and his gospel become recipients of God's grace. So, we're talking about head changes, heart changes, and life changes again. Head change for us this week is to know, again, we talked about this last week, to know that the right standing with God comes through faith in Jesus Christ apart from the law. For our heart change, we need to feel the freedom that God's grace offers us through Jesus Christ. And our life change is to exercise our faith in God by obeying his law. Again, you're not doing it to earn your way into
Right.
heaven. You're exercising your faith in God by doing that. So, and then your next step for next week would
We're
be
in Romans 4.
Romans chapter 4.
We're finally there. We're doing the first 12 verses.
13.
1 through 12.
1 through 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, okay. Hey, I'm
Pastor
getting
Leo
messed
and
up.
math
I'm
are
so
not
sorry.
friends.
No, we're not. No, we're not. I'm sorry.
First 12.
First 12.
We
First
will,
12.
we will, well, it's two weeks in a row of a pretty easy amount of reading.
Yes.
We're not in like the 20 verses at a time moment right
Week
now.
after that would be 10 chapters. I'm just
Yeah, we're gonna. Yeah, 4 1 through 12, and then the week after that, we're finishing the book of Romans. It's gonna be a really long episode. No, we're not going to do that. Yes, next week, make sure you read Romans 4 if you want to be ready as we get started. Again, if you're not reading along with us, continue to join us.
yes.
But it is certainly more beneficial for you if you're reading throughout the week, or even just like right before the podcast starts. Just quickly read.
That's part of being
read
intentional.
those chapters. Yeah. Yep. So I know all of you out there are probably busy. I know Pastor Leo and I are busy, but I think when we prioritize the important, we can find time to read 12 verses this next week. So let's
That's
make
right.
sure we do that. Growth always starts with the next step, as we always say here on the Grow podcast. So we're glad that you're here with us, but if all this podcast is for you is something to listen to on Monday morning because you think it's funny how scared I am of all the foods Leo's bringing, or maybe you even enjoy the, this is something Pastor Mike and I talked about this every once in a while, but kind of my natural inclination is to study for the sake of knowledge.
Right.
I enjoy knowledge. This is like, I don't know if it existed before college, but it was definitely a habit I had in college where I loved the knowledge as I was studying theology and studying scripture. And it wasn't natural for me to be like, okay, how is this going to affect my life, today, tomorrow,
Right.
going forward? It was just, I just want the knowledge. And that's not what the Grow podcast is here for. That the knowledge is great, but it's completely useless if it doesn't impact how we live our lives. And so, find someone that is also listening to the Grow podcast maybe, and be like, hey, let's keep each other accountable this week.
Right.
Are we putting these things into practice that we're learning from Pastor Leo, that we're learning as we go through the book of Romans? We're learning from Paul. We're learning from God. So, however that works for you, but please make sure that this isn't just 30, looks like this week almost 40 minutes of entertainment or of maybe I'm being bold saying we were entertaining Leo, but I'm hoping but it's something that's actually impacting our lives, and we're putting these things into practice throughout the week. And then read again next week. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done that yet. You'll get notified when new episodes go live. If you did that on your phone, make sure you go into your phone, change those notifications
Yes.
to on.
There we go.
Always on. We'll make sure you get notified about everything. So, but every Monday you can count on a new episode of the Grow podcast. Thank you, Pastor Leo.
Thank
So it's been
you.
fun as always and delicious. It's now fun and delicious.
There
It used
we
to just
go.
be fun,
Right.
but I'm not sure Michael has still left me some of that food, but I'm really hopeful because it was really good and I would like more of it. Thanks to Andy. Thanks to all of you for being here. We love you, New Hope family, and we will see you next time.